All right, here we go. How's it going, everybody? We're trying out something new here. We're jumping into Twitch this time. Trying to see, still early in this, and just figuring out what is going to work best for us. We have our usual planned Nier Automata stream that we would be doing with a special guest, as has been our typical Tuesdays. However, due to a last-minute change in plans, we are instead going to be jumping into Satisfactory, which I have played previously one time before on stream. I've played it a fair amount beyond that, but that's beside the point. So let me go ahead and bring that up, and we will jump into the game in just a moment here. All right. And while this is going, my usual stream time fluctuates a little bit. We usually go 2 or 3 hours typically when we're playing Nier Automata because of the way we're trying to just get through the story and all of that. We're actually running those streams a little bit longer than usual. I think what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go for about 2 hours today. We'll see how we're feeling then. If there's something that we get up into in the middle of, maybe we'll continue a bit longer. But it's something we're just going to kind of play by ear a little bit. Now, when last we gathered here in Satisfactory, we were just getting started. We did about 3 hours in actually my first ever stream, and got about this far. We unlocked the means to start building the next large bit of progress. That would be the space elevator that will let us unlock a lot more things and progress in the game a little bit further. In addition to that, we also got a couple of these early tier milestones completed as well. I think our next goal was going to be getting everything in order to get that space elevator going, and possibly seeing about constructing a little bit of a platform to build on. We're kind of out in rough terrain here, so I was thinking we would get some flat land, put up some concrete foundations to actually build everything evenly, and that way we can organize things a little bit better and get everything a little bit neater looking around here. So let me just see where we're at on resources to start, because we do have a couple things. We do have a milestone that we're working towards currently. You can see in the top right corner there. But that is going to need quite a bit of resources. It's mainly going to be resources that we find over here. This is where my iron production is all kind of centered. So we've got enough of the iron rods, because we only need 200 of those. We have almost enough of the iron plates. However, we're going to actually need quite a few more iron rods, if I recall, because the screws that we need 500 screws, and those are going to be built using iron rods. So it's a 1 to 4. So it still take quite a few of those to get there. And on top of that, we have here's our copper. I'm losing track of where all my things are. Almost certainly would have enough copper to make the cables that we need for this. Yeah, it's 2 to 1 for the cables. We have plenty of wire over here. It gets made pretty quickly. So we could absolutely get that part assembly milestone well on its way. But we're also, like I mentioned, looking to start building a bit of a foundation. I think to do that, we're just going to go ahead and go pretty basic. Just make a big, a large platform to start throwing things down onto. So to do that, I'm going to need concrete, and I'm going to need iron plates at the very least. So we'll go ahead and grab a whole bunch of all of that. We'll take the whole thing, actually. And we're just going to grab everything, just because you never know what we're going to need while we're down there. So that's the copper, that's all my iron things, and my concrete. And what we're going to do is we're going to be using these foundations here as our kind of building blocks. Let's go ahead and throw those onto my quick bar. And we're going to try to find a good spot that we want to settle down. And really the only thing we need to look for in regards to a good spot to build is somewhere that we're going to have enough area for what we're trying to do. And honestly, being near this water could be pretty useful. So if we were to build up on this hill, that might actually be a good spot. If we got a lot of rocks here, which we can deal with later on, but right now we can't. So this spot here, we've got some room. And yeah, I think this is going to be our best spot. So let's go ahead and start building here. I don't want to have it like too crazy, like lifted up off the terrain, but I also don't want to have to deal with things like this clipping through it. And in the past, when I have had stuff clipping through, these are things that you can pick up usually, but well, I'm hitting all the wrong buttons. But in my experience in the game, those things will respawn even if you have things built there, and it's just kind of a pain to deal with because you get something all nice and clean looking, and then all of a sudden you've got plants and trees and rocks that are just apparating out of nowhere when you come back one day. So we're going to go with a slightly taller foundation to start. And let's just build out a ways here. So we can go pretty far with it if we want to. So we could absolutely do that and make it 10 panels wide. And just for my own preference, if I build with the same one out here, it's going to be lifted up off the ground, and then I could build another one under it, and it would get rid of that, you know, it would fill in that space. Or I could use the bigger one, which it'll clip to the surface like that, which keeps it nice and level with the others, and then that will dig into the ground and look a little bit neater, in my opinion. I rather have these larger ones be the base, because then, you know, if I wanted to, I could only go like this far out, and then I don't have to deal so much with building things under it. What I think we're going to do, though, is I think we're going to do this thing all the way. Maybe we make a big square, go 10 by 10. Actually, there's 2 there, so 10 by 10 would actually be 8 here. Now, just because I am this kind of person, I'm going to make sure this gap is filled, even though the game is fighting me a little bit. Just because I don't know. That's just, again, I'm just that kind of person at times when it comes to keeping things kind of neatly organized and stuff like that. Didn't fully mean to jump out into the water like that. So let me get back up there. What I'm probably going to do about building down is I think I'm going to build everything on the surface level first, and then I'll deal with filling in the gaps, maybe. The gaps underneath. Because I can very easily build out the platform just like this. And hopefully... These things are pretty cheap for how much space they fill, so hopefully I have enough resources to build out this 10 by 10, and would be even better if I would have enough resources left over after that to build some structure beneath so that I can have it not just floating in the middle of the air. And there, we've reached our capacity for these platforms. But already, this is a pretty big space. This is, I'm sure, enough to place everything that I have over here. But not all of these machines are going to move onto that platform. I'm going to move the hub, which is kind of our central structure here. Our power generators are going to go on there as well. And then some of these machines back here, like the awesome sink, since that isn't related to any of the resources that are being pulled out. My plan for like the constructors and the miners and all of that, everything related to producing and refining materials, I'm going to have in their own little areas, which I'll give platforms and everything later on. But for the time being, this is what we're going to do. We're just going to kind of leave the bulk of this as is until we get that extra, or get the extra space on that platform built out, so that we can decide how we want to properly organize everything. Now let me just check. Yeah, we got enough space here that we can do this 10 by 10 square. Obnoxious as that much space is, it'll be good if we ever want to expand our hub area. And then it'll bring us right up to the edge of the water here, so if at any point we want to or need to bring water up to any of our buildings, or any of our buildings up on the platform here, it'll be very easy to do that because the water is right below, so we can do the appropriate machines to lift it instead of having to bring it out and run it across the terrain and everything. We're right on the water, so it's very convenient. Now, I ran out of concrete, so I'm going to need to come here and see if I've got enough excess to keep up my work. Did have a bit, so we're gonna keep going on this. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to be trying to think about how I want to kind of lay things out. I didn't come into this with really any plan at all, so we are just fully winging it. We're playing it by ear and seeing what looks good in the moment as we go along. Now, we're going to have enough for 2 more platforms. That means we're going to be about 6 shy. But that also means that that's the bulk of the work done. That last 6 will be very cheap to do. And then after that, it's just filling in the gaps underneath, which won't be too problematic at all. It is going to be a lot that we have to do, because it looks like it's going to be, depending on which area, you know, that's like over here, this could be 4 or 5 deep, which is why we're not going to worry about it too much right now. We just want to get the surface level going so that we can start moving things on top here. And since we're using a lot of concrete, what we could do actually is start looking for another bit of limestone that isn't that one. There's going to be another one roughly equal distance that way, I believe. Yeah, it looks like my hub is kind of in the middle of these two, so that's pretty convenient. But what I'll do with this one is I'm probably not going to run the material. Actually, look at that. It's only that far. I didn't even see it from that distance, but it is absolutely right there. So much quicker to get to than I thought it was going to be, actually. So, yeah, what we'll do, kind of a preview, even though I guess I don't have the materials to do it. But effectively what I'll do when I set up spots like this is I'll just drop a foundation in the middle of them and then build a little area out around that and then start building machines right on top of the resource node. That way I can keep them neat and the machines are all level and even with each other and easily organizable. And then from there I can go on to find some way to transport those resources to wherever I need them. Right at the early on in the game, there's not really a means to do that, other than going and getting stuff just manually by hand, picking it up and hauling it over. But yeah, so right now what we're going to do is we're just going to run it up there. We're going to I'm going to do this first. What we're going to do is I only have enough for 3 platforms, so we're not going to be able to build a platform for that yet. So instead, let me go ahead. I'm kind of all over the place in my head right now. It is fully just how I get with this game. Trying to do everything all at once in my head and accomplishing far less than I would like to in that time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the resources to build the machines we're going to need to build up that that resource node to where we can actually make use of it. And to start with that, we're going to need these resources you can see on the right side of my screen here. All of which I can build by hand if I want to. I just need the appropriate parts. Some of the things are not things I already have being constructed automatically, which is something we'll work on in the future. Right now, still very early in the game, so a lot of this stuff is stuff that I just have to do by hand because it's just the easiest way to deal with it right now. Especially if we look at our power, we do have power limits. Right now, my capacity, this light gray line, is 70 megawatts. It's capital M, so I would assume mega, but I'm not sure. I don't know science things. I only pretend to be smart. But regardless, production is down here. This is what we're actively, the amount of power we actively have at any given point. The capacity is how much power we can produce. And the way the machines work, they only provide as much fuel as you need, I think, as much power as you need. So you're not constantly burning at full capacity. But max consumption is this blue line. That is above my capacity, which means if all of my machines were going all at the same time, I would not have enough power to be able to keep them all going. So I don't want to build too many machines that are all working at the same time just yet. I want to keep things a little bit light on the generators to where I don't have to regulate the power levels and things like that so much just yet. That's something I'm gonna have to deal with later, but that's a later problem. Right now, we're just gonna try to go as easy on the machines as we can. But now that I've got my resources and we're over here, I can kind of show you a little bit about what I was talking about with setting up the sort of mini factories for these resource nodes. While I'm at it, I'm just grabbing all of the loose wood and leaves and all of that nearby just because it never hurts to have it, and I don't have my chainsaw with me right now, which means I can't do it in large swaths like I normally would. But again, fully just going to find a kind of a central spot on the node, and then we're just going to build out like one space from there. And a creature's in the way. What creature is in the way? Is it me? No, it's not me. Oh, there's a bird there. Well, that's a problem. And at Fix-It, we have a solution to problems. Go, run, flee. All right, I mean, you made your choice, man. That is a very stoic bird. It held its ground very, very impressively. But now we've got this built, and so we can start figuring out how we want to organize it. Usually what I do is I do kind of a spiral around the main building initially, because it's just feels like a neat, compact way of doing it. So in this case, I could do the miner there, and then I could do the constructor over here next to it, which I'm actually going to bring it a little bit closer to this side of things. Just do it just like that, and then we can bring our conveyor belt right over there. Since it's so close, we don't need any supports, which saves us some resources. And then what I would do from there is I would probably build the part that I completely forgot about, which is going to be our storage container. Fortunately, I have the resources to do so. So no harm there. Just going to go ahead and give it one of those. And now, because I have a particular... I like the right angles on the belts. I don't like the belts going at weird angles, which I kind of just put up with in the case of something like this, because this machine is not going to snap to the grid like these machines do, because this machine specifically snaps to the resource node instead of the platforms. So you just kind of put up with the weird angles you get coming out of there. If there is some better way of doing that people have figured out, it's news to me, but hardly something I'm concerned about. We are fully just here to enjoy the game in the way that we see fit, and in my case, that is just kind of going at my pace and building the stuff that I want to build the way I want to build it. Now, what I'm probably going to end up doing, which I'm not going to set up right now because I don't even have power coming to this, but I'm probably going to just run a conveyor belt from this to my main platform there, just so that I can have it brought closer to me, and then down the line I can make a neater solution. But this is what we've got for now. Now, to power this, we're going to need a power pole, and we're going to need to connect that power pole to our machines, which we don't have cables for. We are then going to have to connect that power pole back to the main base, which we'll have to run some lines for that as well, but I want to get the cables first, because then I could just place these poles wherever I think looks right, but if I connect... if I go to connect a wire to a pole, which I can't even give you an example of right now, but if I had the cables right now, if I went to connect a line to that pole and then went out into open space, it would show me that I would instead be building a power pole that is automatically going to connect to that using the appropriate resources to do so. So that way you can make sure you're measuring out your cable lines to max efficiency instead of having, randomly guessed cable lengths and stuff like that, and all of that good stuff. I completely forgot what I was saying in the middle of that. That way you're not like making shorter lengths than you need to and ending up building more power poles and such than is necessary. You only build as many as you need, because there we go. And you can see exactly what I was talking about. the currently building a power line, but it added the resources necessary to build the power pole as well. And it's showing me now when that turns red, tells me that the wire is too long, so I can just go back to where it's not too long, put it down, and go to build another one. Now, I was just talking about efficiency and stuff, but again, we're not out here to be the most efficient or anything. We're out here to do it our way. And I think this little ledge is a great spot to have a power line because it's elevated above the main platform and it's kind of out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and put one there. And then I'm going to need more concrete. But I'm going to bring the connection then to go to this one because I can't connect those directly. As you can see there, it said the wire was too long. So instead, we're going to go ahead and pick up this concrete, build another power line, and connect those machines to the power grid. So we're just going to kind of have it come out into the center here. Because all of this stuff is going to move later on, we're not too concerned about these power lines being less efficient or going all over the place. What I'll probably end up doing is picking a corner of my platform here and building my power station on that corner. That way I have one place to route all of my wires to. But for now, we haven't moved anything, so our power is all back in the main hub area. But now my miner is going, as you can see here. It's going to process that into concrete, which is then going to get dumped into this cargo container here. And while we're here, we could actually start on what I said I was going to do, which was run a conveyor belt going out to deliver this this stuff out to my main platform here. And because this conveyor belt isn't going to be permanent, I'm not going to worry about it being all neat and tidy. I am just going to raise it up a little bit so it'll be a little bit out of the way. I can still walk under it without any issue there. I like lifting up the conveyor belts if I have them going out in areas where I would normally be walking for exactly that reason. Later on, I can unlock vehicles as something that I can use, and those being taller than people would require a taller structure to drive under. So usually I would try to account for that in advance. Since I'm relatively familiar with the game already, I know those vehicles are coming, but I'm not worried about it with this because this won't even be here for very long anyway. And we'll just go ahead and put that there and drop a storage box in line with it. Actually, we'll build a storage box there. We're going to break this down and just have the conveyor belt come right to the box. Now, when I get my concrete, it'll load into here. And if I let this sit long enough, since I have two containers actually, it'll load an extra stockpile back in the main container as well. So that is there. If I ever need that much concrete, right now I don't. It's fine. I'm not too worried about how much concrete I have because I don't need it in too much of a bulk right now very urgently. I've got my main platform built already, which is the main use of my concrete, and so I don't have to worry about it. The main thing I need to focus on then is going to be these resources. That's the iron and all of that, because I'm going to need to make that into things like screws and all of that. So the best way to do this would be to make another constructor. Because if I have another constructor, I can have it automatically build the screws for me. I don't have to do it manually. And to do that, I have to make a couple reinforced iron plates. So let's go ahead, build those real quick. And let's put a constructor on the line as well as a couple of storage containers just to make sure we have enough resources to build everything that we need. And because we're still just... we haven't made the transition onto the main platform, we're going to do this first. Just kind of out in the open here, because we're not worried about it. It'll be fine. No one's going to complain. Because if they do, well, they're not me. I'm the one who's playing, so it's really how it works for me that matters most in the end, which I think that's just fine. Now, every rod is going to give us 4 screws, and we need 500 screws. So we're going to just take a selection of our rods here, and we're going to throw them into this box. And if I know how to count, which I don't usually, again, I only pretend to be smart, but we're going to throw those rods in there. That's going to refine it into screws, and then we can just kind of leave that sitting and come back to it later. And hopefully the process will have figured itself out. It'll take care of all the screws we need. You can already see it's processing those screws. It's looking good. Now, I think what we're going to do is we are going to start moving these main structures. That is going to briefly interrupt our power and everything, but that's fine. That's not going to be a problem because we can get it back up and running without any issue. So before we do that, what I want to do is offload all of my resources. Some things like this, I'm just going to throw in there. The iron resources, I'm going to put back in their appropriate containers where I got them. And that was the sound of my power lines going down. If we check this out, it looks like my capacities, I mean, that's when it shut down. It doesn't look like consumption spiked, which suggests that the capacity dropped, which leads me to believe that someone ran out of fuel, but it doesn't look like that's the case. So yeah, I definitely don't have... yeah, my capacity is the same, but for some reason it's not able to keep up. Probably has to do with me just adding a new building onto the line. Perfectly understandable and honestly a little bit expected. So what we'll do for now is we're going to turn this off, and we'll go ahead and go back, see if turning that off will give us the power we need to keep everything running as expected. It does not. There is something very wrong with my power lines here. But all of my biomass burners have fuel. So where is the issue? Maybe if I turn this off, will that give me enough? It certainly will not. I don't understand what the problem is here, because you can see the consumption is where it's always been. Capacity is where it should be. The production is where it's always been. The consumption and production are perfectly in line with one another. And max consumption is always going to be at the same spot, because that's based on how many machines are connected to the grid. So I'm really drawing a blank here on what the issue is. But we're not going to worry about it too much. We just cleared our inventory, so we're going to start moving some things. That's going to be the biomass burner. That's going to be the hub. Oh, give me the whole building, please. That's going to be some of these power poles that would have connected the power lines there. Is this connecting directly to any... this one is necessary. That one is not... yeah, all of these are important. We connect these because I need that side to connect to this side. These are gonna go. Oh, you know what? I forgot. I just put stuff into the sink, which probably uses a lot of power. That might have been my issue there. What are you? This is my biofuel constructor, so we're gonna take that as well. Yeah, we're just gonna take the whole kit here. Looks like the power lines are still in order here. And then we can take the equipment workshop. That'll go over on the main platform as well. Same with the MAM. And the rest is resource production. So those are going to stay until I relocate them back to closer to their actual places. But I'm not going to do that until I have vehicles that I can run between them. For now, we've picked up a lot of machines, a lot of buildings, rather, not machines. Some of them were machines, I guess. That's beside the point. That doesn't matter. No one cares. Let's go ahead and build the sink on the edge of the platform here. I think that's a good spot for it. We'll just do it a step in on both sides here. That way, if we wanted to, we can walk around it. We'll go ahead and build in the awesome shop next to it, but I think we're going to do its storage container first, which we're going to keep pretty close. It's close enough that we can grab stuff off the belt if we need to, but it's going to be a short trip for that stuff to get to the actual burner. And then we're going to build the awesome shop. We'll just do that right next to this here. We'll have this open space here just because that's just kind of how it turned out. But this way, we can spend our coupons right there. We can put stuff in there. Actually, I guess we should have... it would be nice to have that actually right next to... Yeah, we'll push this back. We'll push this back next to the machine. Looks like we can have it right there, partially encroaching on its space if we look at that building grid, but close enough that we can quickly grab our tickets from here and put them in here. No problem. So that's our awesome sink. I think our power station is going to be on the edge here. We'll probably put it up in this corner, which means the hub is going to be in this corner. It's going to have the drone on the right side there. So let's keep it in this orientation. Again, like the other one, we'll drag it one step in. And let's do that. I think that looks good. We can still get to all of this, no issue. And there's still room back here for our biomass burners, of which we had just one right now. And I think we're going to go ahead and... Which way do we want to orient it? I think we want to orient it this way. We will just fully center that on that tile there completely. And let's see. I think we're going to do an extra power pole up here, which is going to be kind of our primary connection to these. That's why I had only one pole. And then I can connect that there. Having that wire going across looks a bit messy, but it's fine for now. Now, our fuel supply, we're going to go ahead and give each machine we're going to give 125, and then we'll stockpile 25 just for safekeeping. You know what? I don't know where that 32 came from. So let's see, actually. How much more I can... Yeah, if I do that, I can give them all a little bit more fuel. That means they'll last a little bit longer, and I'll still have three biofuel left over if I need to use my chainsaw. This guy's kind of encroaching on my territory here, but that's fine. We're going to let him just hang out. What else did we have? We had our equipment workshop, which we're going to arrange it a little bit differently this time. We're going to put that right here. That way we kind of have this open space. Previously we had it just on the exit, kind of capped off the building. But this way we want to keep this kind of open flow through here. And then this way we can still get here to build those things as we see fit. Now that is our power, which means, let's see, is this running? This is not running. Let's... There we go. So now because I've taken some stuff off of the power grid that I haven't rebuilt yet, you can see that my max consumption has gone down drastically. But that's just because I don't have those extra few buildings still connected. I don't have the... this guy's really getting in there, huh? I don't have the awesome sink wired into the grid, so that's why that's not... that capacity isn't going crazy. Now, what else did we have? Did we have... Let's see, what are we holding? That doesn't tell me much. You know what? We had a constructor that was building our fuel, which we'll go ahead and we'll put that... You know, it goes hand in hand with our power station, so we'll go ahead and just build it up here next to the power station. We'll give it a little bit of space. Let's see, that's good. I actually would like to have that more in between. I think that should be... No, that's right on the line. I am being a little bit particular about how I'm placing things, but I really don't have to be. There is nothing holding me to being super particular about any of this. I just like doing it the way that I like doing it. Just like the other storage containers like this we built, we're going to have them, give them a little bit of space here. I actually had this one off course there, off center a little bit. I'm going to try to get that in line with the machine, and we want to give it some space. If we have to come in here, I did it wrong again. I think it's because I've got this one off center, and it's trying to snap to that one. All right, let's give it one more shot. We want it in line. We want it close, but have enough room on the belt that we can get in here and grab stuff or whatever the case might be if we ever want to. Which, yeah, that space right there seems like that is a pretty perfect distance from that for that exact purpose. Now, we did have a lookout tower, and it seems like we've used up some resources, probably on the conveyor belts that we just that we've put somewhere. I don't know. We must have done something differently than what we pulled up, because obviously I don't have the means to build that tower, even though I did previously. So not an issue at all. We're not concerned about the tower. We do need one more building. I almost forgot. We need the MAM, which I think we're going to go ahead and put right next to our main hub here. We're going to do it this way. Try to keep that open field instead of feeling like you just have a corridor of buildings on either side here. But now we can still get to the MAM, access that, no issue. I think our layout here is a lot better than what we had previously. Go ahead and drop our fuel in there because we don't need it that often. And I don't know, I don't recall what the rest of these resources were for. I would have been a good idea to think about that, but it is what it is, and what it is not an issue. So let's actually make that solid biofuel, and while we're at it, let's go ahead and see what we can turn these leaves and wood and such that I have into. Get some more of that biofuel, because that is what keeps everything running in this place. It is very necessary to keep our operation going. Unfortunately, building this stuff is pretty quick. The biofuel goes very quickly in construction. But when you get to the solid biofuel, it lasts a lot longer than just the plain leaves or wood would ever last. All right. Plenty of solid biofuel there. I had 3 before. Now I've got way more. I don't think I even had that 3 on me. I think I already put that in a container. So everything that I have here is entirely new resources. All right, and there we go. Got all of that all built now. 140 up from 3, not to mention what's in the machines is just a whole other stockpile of those resources. Completely skip my mind that I just built a machine to process biomass into solid biofuel, and I didn't even use it. I instead sat here doing it by hand. That's just sometimes the way this game goes, though. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw just the raw concrete into this. This machine isn't connected, so it's not gonna do anything right now, which is good. We don't want to do anything right now because we don't have the power to pay for it doing anything. Now, because of the way I have this set up, I could easily put 3 more of these solid biofuel burners in this section, 1 on each of these tiles, and, you know, double my power production. The only issue is then I would have to put in the resources to pay for that power. So I'm not concerned with that right now. So I'm not gonna do that. But it is a good thing to keep in mind. We do have capacity for more. And later on down the line, when I'm not using this kind of fuel anymore, I might move the hub to that corner. Just to open up the center of the platform a little bit more, because I'll be changing to a different type of power source, which I might do entirely off of this platform even. It's hard to say. But for now, this corner is our power station. It works very well and does everything that we need it to, and then some, because we're being a little bit careful about what buildings we activate, what machines we have running. Now, I believe I turned off my screw production, so let me get that going right now, because I should be able to have that going without any issue. Actually, I don't want to put screws in there. I which that seems ridiculous that I wouldn't want to, but I do have a particular amount of resources that's going into there. Actually, you know what? I'm going to get the end result anyway, regardless, so it doesn't hurt to put that in there, because I have the set amount here, so I know that's the only amount that's going to get built. Having extra on top of that is fine, and I'm going to end up using those screws later on anyway, so I don't know why I was worried about it, even if it was just a brief passing thought. But, yeah, we're here now. All right, and let's see, where do we go from here? We've got our platform that we set out at the beginning to build. It's rough right now. It's nothing special, and we still have a hollow section underneath, but we're going to fix that later. We've got our hub moved. We've got our awesome sink moved. We've got our power station over there, and we've got our fuel production right here, our solid biofuel, which we're not going to keep forever. That's only going to be there for a while. That's only going to be there while I need it. When I upgrade to different power sources, obviously, that's going to go as well as the power station. But for now, it's useful. For now, we're going to keep it. So let's go back to looking at what it's going to take to make this space elevator. Now, for the space elevator, I'm going to need a big area to put it up. And I might want to give it its own platform to where it's kept nice and neat as well, in that same way as our primary platform here. Now, for that, I'm going to have to figure out where I want to put it. When I say this thing is big, I mean it's big. Like this 10 by 10 platform, I think that's might be what it takes to cover the terrain that the space elevator needs. It is a huge construction. So I might have to go across the pond over there to do it. There looks like there's plenty of open space over there. I might be able to do it back in this space. There's plenty of open space here, but I would need to move all of my machines here first. So it's definitely something to look at, something to consider. But we're also going to need a lot of resources before we can build it. I bet if I look at my copper, I'll probably have far more than I need. I need 1,500, and I've got way more than that. If I look at my concrete, I've got almost 400 here, and I've got that other concrete production as well, so that's certainly going to be enough. I need 400 iron rods, which I have right there, and then I need 250 iron plates. Easy enough right there. In fact, let's start grabbing these resources. There's 250 iron plates. There's 400 iron rods. Let's grab all of this concrete. And all of our 1,500 wire. What we're going to do actually, though, is we're going to just take all the plates. We're going to take all the concrete, and we're going to see about building another big platform. Now, I want to have the space elevator somewhere that's not inconvenient to reach, because I'm going to need to go to it to offload resources now and then. But I don't want it so close that it's crowding all of my other constructions. So it's really something to sort of something to balance, kind of. And I'm gonna have to find out the best way to do that. Let me go ahead and bring this up real quick. Now, let's see. Like I said, I could probably fit it over here, but I would have to move all of that right now. And that actually, I can't do it here because that is on top of some resources. So what I'll probably have to do is go further out this way and maybe build it out here. And like I mentioned before, I could later on in the game destroy this rock. I could later in the game, or I could, right now, I could cut down some trees and stuff, but that's going to be a whole thing. So I might just build the platform to where it's over top of this stuff. Now, I did just bring in a friend of the channel to the stream. Let me get you added on screen here. But we have brought Meido back into the stream. Here you are in your classic World of Warcraft outfit, because that's just the setting we had you on last time from yesterday.
Need to set it up to default to the maid outfit when I'm not doing a specific game.
For sure, yeah.
Do you have a stream share?
Yeah, you should be able to see a screen share on there.
I don't. Oh, there it is. I had to click into the live stage.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you're familiar. This is Satisfactory. I played this on my first stream. And we got a little ways into making some progress, but it was very slow going because that's just how these games are. But at the start of this, I decided I was going to build a big platform to start moving some of my buildings onto. So we built out this 10 by 10 platform on the edge of this little tiny lake here. I don't even know that you'd call it a lake, but that's what we're calling it.
Is this effectively like a engineers style game?
Kind of. It's got like survival elements of a lot of those survival games, but it's very light. In that regard, it's more
recently from one of the dev team, and he was apparently saying that they have no intention to give it active PvE elements that you
yeah, they're not going to do like
are required to do effectively.
Yeah, they're not going to make you like defend your bases and stuff like that, because that's ultimately not what this game is about. It's about most efficiently harvesting the resources of this world and progressing through to do that as best as you can. Right now, I've got kind of a mess over here. This is my main like iron resource station, where I'm producing iron plates and iron rods, as well as screws, which is in that building over there. Then over here, I've got copper and concrete, which is being hauled in from far over to the east over there. And this is all just temporary. Later on, as I get access to more technology and stuff, I can make this a lot neater. But for now, I wanted it all being brought to the same location so that I could easily access it and work with it.
Do you have like a quota of stuff that you have to send to Earth, or do you just have access to all of the resources you mine up?
You have certain objectives. Like right now, I can go to my hub and I can go to my milestones, which I will load resources in. That's the milestone cost. So I would pick an objective, I would load the stuff in, and then when I do that, there will be a big red button I can hit, and when I do that, all of the stuff is loaded into this pod here on the edge of the hub, and that'll fly off to a space station and give them the stuff. But what we're working on right now is building a space elevator, which is another path for progression. It's kind of the main path. Through the space elevator, you unlock the ability to access new milestones. Through the milestones, you unlock new technologies. And then there's another path of progression, which is the molecular analysis machine, which when you find new stuff, you can bring it here. You can research it. So initially I had to get these berries or, these other nuts and mushrooms and stuff. Then I could research those to unlock the next level down in that line and so on. And so there's like 3 or 4 different paths of progression that get you different things. But there's kind of 2 main ones, which is the space elevator and the hub milestones.
Okay, that's interesting. I just opened up your chat, and yeah, that URL. Oh no, this is Twitch. Duh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Twitch, your chat URL just happens to be twitch.tv/popout/azabl/chat?popout equals. So every stream, that same URL will work. I don't know what it is for YouTube because I can't check that.
I think if I recall, it was some atrocious string of characters.
So that probably explains why I was having trouble yesterday.
Yeah. Now, when you joined in...
Oh, sorry.
When you joined in, I was just kind of discussing the plans for building the space elevator, because I'm going to need a pretty big platform, probably about equal in size to that platform I have over there. So we were kind of figuring out what the best way to do that would be.
Is the other one approximately 10 by 10?
Yep, that one is 10 by 10. I think that's about what I need for the space elevator, which I don't actually, now that I'm looking at it again, I don't think I have here unless I cut down these trees. And that is its own series of issues because the trees might respawn. It's early access. So I think what I'm going to do instead is either go up the hill and see if there's open space, which I don't think there is going to be because it's pretty mountainous the further that way you go. But I could go across the pond there because it looks like there's quite a bit of open space. That didn't slide me like I wanted it to. But still,
so you're gonna be all imperialistic.
Something like that. It's just the nature of things. You cross the pond, you take it over.
So you got my reference, okay? So I want to confirm what I was understanding from what you were saying before. So it sounds like you have objectives, but you don't have a quota. You can use all the resources to improve your base, and then do the objectives.
Yep, right? Yep. You get to pick at your pace how you want to approach the objectives.
Okay, so it's a pretty friendly definition of interstellar capitalism.
Yeah, in that way it definitely is.
Because a lot of people are like, oh my god, they'll charge you for your air and stuff like that, which that doesn't even make sense, but okay.
So yeah, I think this spot over here might be our best bet. It keeps it without being too far from everything else. If I go over further this way, we've got this crash site, which is going to get in the way. There's nothing I can do about that. And we can just kind of go... I'm not sure if these trees are going to be an issue or not. Let's just kind of see. Whoops. Wrong mode. Okay, so if I go 10 over, that would mean that the trees would be an issue one way or the other. And I can't go that far back here, so that means I would...
Can you just build out over the slope?
Over that? Like,
oh, yeah, that'd be an option. Like off of one of the various cliff faces I was thinking.
Yeah, because what I'm trying to do is build a platform where I don't have to rely on clearing out trees and stuff, because I don't want to have trees respawn in the middle of my stuff.
Does the platform build all the way down, or does it have like struts?
It will hover, basically. Like, okay. It's kind of like Minecraft in that way. But
Minecraft not a physics block.
Yeah. And my plan with my main platform over there, right now it's just the one layer, but I'm going to fill it out later on. But that would take resources and time that I didn't want to invest in it right now. Let me just to see. Okay. So I could fully just put this here without a platform, and it would probably be fine. It looks like it might be clipping some stuff, and actually, let's throw it down. Um, Kind of the nice thing about it is that they do give you these struts on the actual structures. That doesn't line up quite right, but it usually does.
It'd be cool if like that round part like would cant to match the slope of the train.
Yeah. So
Did you just destroy that?
yeah, I tore it down because I didn't want it. That wasn't going to be the spot for it anyway.
Ah.
Is this just like a? Yeah, this isn't a node. This is just a chunk of coal. So there are kind of two forms of the typical like mineral resources and stuff like that. There are these chunks that kind of stick up out of the ground that you can harvest manually and they'll break and they never come back. And then there's the ones that you can build a like a miner on top of and it'll continuously harvest it forever. Um and that obviously was one of the ones that you can only harvest until it breaks. So it never hurts to grab those if you come across them. Huh. So yeah, it looks like the way I would have to do it if I want to have a platform, if I'm going to do it over here, it's not as... Unfortunately, that crash site is in kind of the most open area, one of the most open areas, without going further off into the desert. So if I wanted to do a platform, I'd probably have to start it up here, which means a lot of building down to fill it out later on, which is not something I'm super interested in doing. Obviously, I could go further out,
if you want to do like a terraformer.
Yeah, that spot almost works, but I would like to be able to have it on a platform. Let me see, actually.
What if you made the platform more tailor-made to its exact size? Then you could like avoid the trees, right?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to figure out exactly what you need though, because you can only see the size and shape of the thing while you've got the gun out.
Could you place one, put it on top of that one, and then place the others under it with the new gap? And then you would just remove it and fill the center?
I'm not sure. It looks like that might be on it.
Bottom left, it looks like it's still clipping the ground, so it might not.
I don't think it is.
Oh, okay.
I think that's
an
just
archway of some sort. Okay.
Yeah. Now I do kind of want to just see how it looks if I just place it on the ground, because this is like most other stuff. It matters to a certain extent. Like, it only matters as much as you care, but it kind of matters to put stuff on platforms because then it's easier to arrange things and get things going in proper neat designs and stuff like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place this down and we're just going to take a second to watch its whole thing happen. I think we'll let's see if I can actually get back up there real quick.
So I got a not game related question, more of a stream related question. You said that you're not beholden and you're not affiliated with either organization. So you could technically do co-streaming using a service like Restream, couldn't you?
You mean like streaming to both platforms at once?
Yeah.
I could. I don't plan to. The nice thing is that the chat box in Streamlabs OBS is already set up to do that. Like, when I was still signed in through YouTube, it was sending me the Twitch messages when I was doing a test stream. So there's the space elevator.
Yep.
Um, but to be able to use Streamlabs OBS and send it out to two different things, I would have to pay them more money than I care to do.
Not quite.
Um,
Restream, I think it's restream.io. They do it for free. You just put your Steam key for them in, and then you put your Steam key for the other service into Restream, and then it goes out to them, and then they distribute it to the other platforms.
that could be. I'm not familiar with Restream. I honestly haven't heard about it before. I would
It's
be a
what I
little
used to use.
wary of bringing more services into the situation, even if they are free. I mean, that almost is kind of a concern in its own right, but that's a discussion for other people in another time and place. Um, but I also don't think I really care to stream to multiple platforms at once. I think I'm perfectly fine
Okay,
with
fair.
just the one.
Yeah. I think that if I remember right, Restream is really popular in the speedrunning community. I think that's probably where I heard of it. They'll use it
Mm.
for the reverse. They'll use it for conjoining a stream as well.
All right. So it looks like having built it, having that bird's eye view helped a little bit. It might be clipping on this side a little bit. I'm not sure. A little bit, but it's not that
You
bad.
can just
I'm
say it's
not.
dug into the dirt.
Yeah, yeah. There's enough you can. It's not like it's half
When
buried
it's
or
a
anything.
negative clip like that, I would almost say it's better. If it was like a positive clip where like you have just something floating, that'll look more awkward, I think.
Yeah, it was more a concern if it was going to be like this whole chunk or something was buried.
Yeah.
Uh, then that would be something I'd be less down
Okay
for.
with.
But yeah, so I've got the space elevator. It's man, on these settings, it sure shows that it's low poly.
I'm guessing you're playing in low settings.
Yep, I just dropped everything down to the lowest just to make sure everything would work. I don't remember if I fully tested it and found that was necessary, or if I just did it as a precaution. Either way, it looks good enough. Like that's the only thing I've really noticed that's even static and all of that, it shows really significantly. It's like the smaller machines and stuff, when you get up close and stuff, they still look pretty good in these settings. The main drawback that I have for playing on the low settings is the lighting situation.
Yeah. So I was talking in a streaming chat that I'm in, and a lot of people were suggesting that even if you don't have any active subs, any active followers, there's nothing wrong with setting up don goals.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I
So
don't see why there would
yeah.
be.
So I've actually been considering trying to see if I could throw up, say, a physical stream deck and a GPU as don goals for myself. I would want there to be a way though for people to say which one they would want the money to go to, and I don't know if you can do that through Streamlabs.
Mm.
Because I think it's just oh, you've reached the mile point, we unlocked this thing.
Yeah, I think I haven't looked at different streamers enough to see how they usually set up their goals and stuff like that, but the ones that I have seen, usually there is a particular goal at any given one time that they're working towards.
Yeah, so I'd basically have to be the one to pick, you're saying.
Yeah, so like at right out the gate, you would like prioritize what's most important and then set a goal for that thing.
even though I'm calling it donation goals, I don't really like the idea of it being tied just to donations. I'd like to tie it to all revenue sources. So if someone's buying my merch, I want that to count because I want to appreciate that. If someone's subbing, I want to count that because I want to appreciate that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Best way to do that, it seems like, would be a little bit manual, probably.
Probably.
And even then, it probably wouldn't be that bad to deal with anyway. So, just doing a bit of, speaking of manual things, doing a bit of handcrafting to finish out this milestone, because after building the space elevator and getting that all figured out, there was enough time for my resources to build up again to get me the milestone as well. And
That's
here
awesome.
is the big red button. And now,
I
as
think
we've
the
done,
space elevator means that you'll be able to do shipments more often. Like you'll have to wait for the pod to come back with the pod, right?
yeah, for the milestones, I always have to wait for the pod. For the
Oh,
space elevator, there's particular different stuff that I have to do.
so maybe you should go do
Usually,
my. If they're both going to the space station, it seems like the elevator should be able to do the milestones too.
the space elevator is saved for large shipments of presumably like heavy materials. Um, it's a specific path that you use to then unlock more milestones. So it's connected to the milestones, but it's got its own objectives. But yeah,
Do
like you
any of the
said,
Lagrange?
I actually do have to wait for the pod to come back before I can put more stuff in.
I'm trying to think. None of the Lagrange points could a space elevator like that, right?
I don't know what that word means.
Uh, the Lagrange points are orbits where you can stay perfectly in station over the surface of the planet.
Oh,
There's a
what?
finite of them due to gravitational dynamics within a solar system.
Hmm.
I
And
think that it's like seven.
what was the question again?
I
Or
don't
the
remember any of them being uh, a good choice for like a space elevator because like on Earth we want to build space elevators, and the way that people think the best way to do it would be that you'd have a cable that you drop, and then it would just be flying free, and then once a day or something like that, depending on it's probably like 6 times a day actually. The ISS goes around, but it would be zipping around, and then it would latch onto a boat, do its shipment, let go, and then fly free again.
hmm.
That are like having a boat circumnavigate the planet with the ISS,
Yeah.
which would require a really, really, really fast boat, of course.
Yeah. Uh so with that new milestone I just did, I can now make assemblers, which are like the constructors that I've got here, which just automates the construction of simple recipes, takes a recipe that requires one component and makes it into one product. The assembler allows more complex recipes where it takes two ingredients to make one component. So, a very vital step in the automation process. I believe that's the only thing I have unlocked from this one.
Okay. So it looks
And
like there's 5 Lagrange points relative to
mm,
the sun and the planet, affected by the gravitational forces of both.
that's interesting.
Though I guess it must not be stable over the planet because like L3 is literally the opposite side of the sun.
Huh. Okay, so what is the ideal next step? We've got everything at a good spot. I could start working on moving and reorganizing all of this machinery, but it's fine as it is, I think. Uh, I think what I'm going to want to do let's see, can I do splitters yet? I can do a splitter. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to make screws a permanent, screw production a permanent foundation here.
So you got to shut down the assembly line for a little bit, right?
Yeah, very briefly, but yes. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the iron rod cargo right next to that, and we'll reroute the iron plates as well. I'm kind of interrupting the lines for all of those things in one go. Actually, I'll probably need to lift this up. I think I'm going to run into things if I don't. It's too steep. Come on. Let's try to do it this way then. Where are you? Where have you gone? No, I need you. Cooperate, please. Okay. You know what? That's probably good enough. That way I can... Yeah, so let's... I know a player's in the way. It's me. Get that roughly in line there. Then connect the two. Not the neatest way of doing it. Better way would be if I turned this thing around or something, but it's good enough. And then... Yeah, I don't like organizing belts where there's weird ankles and stuff, but I'll make an exception this time. What do I need? I need... Here's what I don't need. I don't need this. If I don't need... yeah, that's fine. I'm going to need a splitter, which I'm going to need cables for. All right. And then with those cables, I can make the splitter that I can use to divert the iron rods. Those can start going again. Let's go ahead and have you come this way. Good enough. There we go. And this will go roughly in this direction. Let's connect there. Now it's going to divert the rods two ways, one to make screws and one for rod storage. The iron plates will go to storage in the same area, and the screws will go to storage right next to them as well. As neat as I can do without reorganizing this whole space. So that is that taken care of. And part of the reason I wanted to do that is because I can now permanently have screws building, and I don't have to go out of my way to make those happen anymore. They'll take care of themselves.
So can you like programmatically fabricate stuff in sequence. Basically, okay, to break it into Minecraft, something that I've always tried to do is like I'll have a chest here that I put iron ore into and coal ore, and then it chugs through the system, and you get iron bars here, and then at the last set of chests, you've got just a chest full of iron chest plates, iron greaves, iron helms, iron swords, etc. Can you do stuff like that in this, or
Yeah, you can. So right now I have a pretty simple array of tools, but later on, I had in the past, I had a whole storage depot that would take stuff in from a train, from automated cargo vehicles, and from drones. So it had multiple drop off points, but it would feed them all into a network of conveyor belts that would sift everything in through programmed splitters and mergers to go into a particular array of storage containers. Um, so when you get to the point where you can have programmable splitters and stuff like that, you can do much more intricate stuff. But yeah, like the next step would probably be like from this. You can see in my objective here, the top right, I have that whatever that 50 is. I don't remember what that part is called, but I would have an assembler that would take some of these components and make those. And then that would then get shipped off into the space elevator to be sent off when it's ready. But yeah, so like right now, like this is as complex as I've gotten, where I've got a splitter to redirect the flow of iron rods. But what I do need to add to the mix is these reinforced iron plates that show up next to the concrete there in the Logistics Mark II milestone. And to make that, I also need an assembler because the reinforced iron plate takes 2 items. So I'll need to take those screws that I'm making, and I'm going to need to take the iron plates that I'm making and turn those into reinforced iron plates. And ideally, I would set it up to where I'm getting all of those made at the same time. But right now, I've got a pretty limited resource selection. If I don't go further out, this is what I've got. So what I'm probably going to do is just set up an assembler over here somewhere for the time being and just siphon those right from the storage containers to just make a bunch of these reinforced iron plates and foregoing trying to stockpile those other resources as much as I normally would. And to make this, I'm going to need rotors, cables, and reinforced iron plates. And I just did the stupid thing of dropping off a bunch of stuff, so I don't have any of my resources on hand. Rotors are another thing I'm going to need to automate. So pretty soon I'm getting to the point where I'm going to need to start finding more iron nodes to mine from, so that I can make all of this stuff that I need all at the same time. Looks like there is some more iron that's going to be up in the hills there, and then the next closest one is far that way. And beyond that, even further to the west. So, yeah, right now, I could go up into the hills and I could get access to that stuff, but I don't care too much about it right now. It's fine. So any cables, rotors, and reinforced iron plates. Go ahead.
have you ever thought about the food hierarchy?
The food hierarchy?
Yeah. So it's the principle that food, which is for the rich, becomes food, which is for the poor, and vice versa. So a great example is beef. Back in the day, beefsteak, which was just called a slab of beef, was for the poor people, because it was really easy to butcher. You just cut it off the animal, you drop it on a pan, you cook it. Whereas minced meat was really challenging to butcher, so it was only for the rich. So, hamburger, in other words.
Mm.
Then we invented meat grinders, which were really easy to operate, and basically the two switch places. Nowadays, steak is considered the luxury meat, and hamburger is considered the common meat.
Mm. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting how stuff like that happens with just a single like improvement in technology, right?
Yeah. Never thought about it too much, but yeah, that's interesting how that happens.
Now, what I can't rationalize is why caviar is considered a luxury food, because it seems like harvesting eggs is one of the easiest things you can do.
I mean, it's probably easier on some creatures than fish. Like chickens, you just grab the egg when it's there.
Don't you just squeeze the fish though?
Yeah, it's still more processed than something like chicken eggs, though.
Yeah, I just
It's a more
I just don't
manual
really get how
process.
it's a $10,000 process. Plus, you
Yeah,
get a lot of eggs from each fish. One of those little cans of caviar is probably only like an eighth at most of her stockpile, and each of those cans goes for what 10,500, whatever.
multiple hundreds of dollars for sure, at least
Yeah,
at the cheaper end, at
I
least.
I think the cheapest caviar I've ever seen was like $100 a can.
Yeah, I actually watched a video that Sungwon Cho put out. His voice actor and all that stuff. I what's it? ProZD. That's his YouTube name. He put out a video at some point. I think when the quarantine hit and everything, he just started making a bunch of videos where he just like reviewed, like tried and reviewed a bunch of different things. So he was doing like every kind of or every flavor of Pringles and stuff like that. But one of them was I think it was caviar. I think you mentioned it because it's something that he genuinely likes, and he he quoted like how expensive each can he had was, but yeah, they're like these tiny cans for
Smaller
just
than a tuna can, right?
insane.
Heck, isn't it
Yeah,
smaller than a sardine can even?
it's like half the height of a tuna can, it seems like, and maybe as big around, maybe. Um, it's just this tiny little amount, and it's over $100 for the cheapest cans. It's just insane to think about.
Another one that kind of has changed culturally. I'm not sure exactly the cause. It could be meat grinders, but like pate used to be super fancy, and nowadays most people look at pate as, oh, that's just dog food. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. Pat. Well, I mean, pate seems like it still has like the reputation by name, but like if you showed someone pate, yeah, it'd probably be exactly that reaction. It's like, what are you talking about? That's dog food.
I don't know if I've ever actually seen anyone in the last 30 years eat pate, except
Anytime
for
I've
in
heard
like a
about it,
comedy movie.
yeah, anytime I've heard about it, it's been in the context of like expensive restaurants and stuff. The idea of pate just seems terrible to me. Like I had a hamburger once. I used to work in a burger place. I had a hamburger once that was just rush finished, and there was some extra burgers left over. And the manager's like, "Hey, you want to have a burger?" And I was like, "Sure." And he just threw together a burger for me. I was going on my lunch break anyway, so it kind of worked out. And uh, there were a bunch that were ordered rare or something, I guess. So that's just what there was, and it was not pleasant to me.
So pate is, it's not only finer minced, it's also undercooked. I never really realized that.
I don't. I think so. Yeah. I think the idea of pate specifically is that it's maybe that it's not cooked.
I thought that it was pink cooked, which is like it's still fully cooked. It's just there's a different process that you use to get it to where you maintain that pinkness of the meat. I don't remember how exactly it works, but you do it. Oh, I think it has to do with boiling actually. But you do that, and then you grind it really fine. Was what I always figured.
Yeah, I think it is. Actually, I know I'm on here playing a game, but I'm also kind of doing whatever I want. It's whatever. I actually just pulled up a thing that says that it's usually liver pate is.
Oh,
But
doesn't
so
even make
I think what I was thinking of is something else. I think there is something that is specifically beef that is uncooked that I can't remember the name of.
Yeah, I can't imagine rich people wanting uncooked meat. I mean, the Gordon Ramsay meme, right? It's raw. Yeah, I censored that.
Yeah. Um,
And Gordon Ramsay's like one of the most expensive chefs right now, isn't he?
I mean,
Except for that
certainly.
Salt Bay guy. That Salt Bay guy like pulls big numbers because of that one GIF.
I mean, yeah, he's got Salt Bay has social media marketing and Dubai on his
I
side.
heard that his food is actually rubbish.
Could be. I don't know. I haven't heard anyone actually talk about it. It's just I've only ever heard anyone discuss Salt Bay in like regards to it being kind of a meme. But but yeah, being in because I think the the kitchen he runs or whatever is in Dubai or something. So plenty of money being thrown
Propped
around
up by the
there.
Dubai state.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So right now I've got production on those reinforced iron plates. Now I could absolutely do more of these assemblers to make rotors and to make these advanced plates or whatever they're called. However, they all use the same materials for the most part. It's all using iron, and some of them are using the other things. So like I need reinforced iron plates and rotors to make smart plating. Don't understand that. Don't know why plating needs rotors in it, but whatever.
Well,
Uh
if you look at the image, the plates can twist around each other, so that's why you need a rotor.
I figured that was just a stack of plates like you get with the standard iron plates here.
Maybe, but I mean, like looking at the height of the rotor and then the height of that stack, with that rotor right in the middle of it, it seems like that's got to be all one unit actually.
That could be. Either way, it's space station stuff, I assume, because that's the first thing you have to send up in the space elevator.
Have you built a smart plating or can you not?
I could. I would need the rotors and iron plates to make them, and I can't make them by hand. I have to make them in the assembler. It's the only option with those recipes made for the space elevator. Um, but yeah, right now I've got a very slow production of these reinforced iron plates. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to scout out that node of iron that looks like it's probably up in the hills here. Unless what I was seeing is one of these. Okay. So the next closest one is far to the kind of northeast up here. When I say far, it's counting in meters, so it's not that far. All right. Yeah, so I've got iron, looks like a single node here.
Oh, ugh.
Would be nice if there was more, but it's not bad. It is pure, so that's pretty good.
Tartar.
That's the one. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't seem like something I could ever personally get behind it because I've had rare beef and I wasn't a fan. Rare ground beef, I should say specifically. And
Yeah.
the texture of it was the issue for me. Like it didn't feel good to eat.
It does look like tartar is a little closer to cube than ground,
Hmm.
but even still, pass. Plus, apparently, it also has a raw egg on top of it.
Oh shoot.
I saw some
Uh,
animals.
yep. Some bad critters wanna poison me.
One thing I wanted to probe you on: what is your take on why people are willing to pay thousands of dollars for a Ritz cracker full of food?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just an insane aspect of abundance and such.
I've never understood the concept of the more you pay, the less food you get. It seems so bizarre to me.
Yeah. Now it's not like I don't like looking at these things, but it's not a concern for me. But because I'm streaming, I'm gonna put on arachnophobia mode just in case, because some people could have pretty visceral reactions to those kinds of things. Completely didn't think about it because I completely forgot about those enemies until just now. But with arachnophobia mode on, they will look less horrific.
With that being a concern, do we need to do something special about next week's WoW stream? Because there's gonna be a bunch of spiders in the zone.
I mean, there's not really anything we can do in that situation without like just avoiding that content in that game. I specifically turn it on in this game because it is an option in the game.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know
also,
if you wanted to like put a TW on or something at least.
maybe, I don't know. In this game, it's also kind of amusing what the arachnophobia mode does.
What's it do?
Let me just go back and see if I can find those things again, and I will show you. Those things are definitely one of the most dangerous feeling enemies. I can't remember what they're called. I think it's just like Stinger or something is what they call them. But this game, who developed it? Was this? I think this is the game development studio that made Goat Simulator.
What was it called? Like coffee something or something like that, right? Is
Coffee Stain. Yeah. So it replaces the visual as well as the audio for them.
What is going on in the center of the GIF?
I think it's got like some like glitchy effect on it. Oh, like there. So that creature has like a poisonous bite or something. So I think it's got like a particle effect on it.
Ah.
And I woke up another enemy that is buzzing around and wants to kill me now.
Apparently, by the way, tartar is not the only major recipe.
Not the only major recipe.
For raw beef.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
ignore the egg thing because they're using the same picture on all these recipes. That's weird. Apparently tartar is French. Then there's carne cruda Italy. Kitfo Ethiopia. And beef larb from Thailand
Huh.
are all major raw beef recipes.
It makes sense that there would probably be other ones from other cultures. Let's see. Where am I at on these plates? Got 42. Okay, so I've almost got enough for the milestone here. That's pretty good. hit the big red button, and as is tradition, we step outside the hub and watch the pod leave.
To encourage additional verticality, conveyor poles now have a stackable variant.
Are you getting commercials? Is that what's going on?
No, it gives you the rundown on what you just unlocked. So if I go in here to logistics, I can now make faster conveyor belts. I can make a faster version of conveyor lifts, and I can do stackable conveyor poles instead of just the normal single unit.
So you could have, like, with the stackable one, I'm guessing that means you can have 2 conveyor belts running in tandem.
Yep. So like over here where I was kind of fighting with these 2 belts, I could have done like a stackable one on that pole and then just have it like run through the middle there if I wanted to. But yeah, that's another milestone completed. We're making some progress here. Slowly but surely.
Do you think you'd buy Kobe beef?
I would be very interested in trying Wagyu. Kobe beef seems like it would be really expensive.
It's 110 per pound, and I thought that I heard that Wagyu was more expensive.
Kobe is the regional specific one, so I assume that's the more expensive one. It's the champagne of Wagyu.
$200 per pound on Wagyu.
It also depends on like the grade of Wagyu as well. Like,
yeah,
it's like I think they grade them in A numbers.
Apparently,
like A1 through A5 or something.
Something called olive Wagyu can go from 120 to 300 a steak.
Okay, so it looks like... How could this have possibly run out of fuel before the others? They had the same amount in them. All 3 had the same amount. What? Alright, well, let's just fix this real quick. You know what, while we have this situation that we are going to need to answer to soon, let's go ahead and just go get some more biofuel.
Holy.
What's up?
So apparently the best place to buy this stuff online is a place called Holy Grail Steak Company. The first steak I see is an American Wagyu for $400. Okay, it is for a 6-pack though.
That makes it more reasonable.
But they're sold out.
Yeah.
Okay, I seriously need to talk to Monkey about letting me order some wireless headphones. 80 bucks Tajima American Wagyu New York strip steak. $80. Would you do it?
You know, maybe once. just to try it out, you know?
Oh, this is a little
Special
more
occasion,
affordable,
maybe.
and I think I know how to make one too. Just a filet mignon for 52. It's a
Yeah,
Koshi American Wagyu though.
what's Koshi? Or
I'm
a
not sure
Koshi?
what the different. I'm not sure what Tajima versus a Koshi is. I think it might be the breed of the cow.
That would make sense.
Yeah, 6-ounce fillet. That's not even half pound, right?
I'm terrible with my kitchen conversions. I could not tell you, but yeah, filet mignon is going to be pretty small cut.
Yeah. But a fillet you can do basically with just a bit of salt and double siding it in the pan, right?
I mean, you can do that with pretty much any steak. The only difference is with a filet, it's going to be pretty tender right out the gate, so you don't have to worry about that like you would with other cuts.
It seems like everything online says that if you're doing most steak cuts, that way of cooking is just ruining the meat or something like that.
Like minimal seasoning?
Yeah, just doing a little bit of salt and then double siding it.
Ah, it's the most proper way.
Oh no, what I got all over you?
Maybe throw like some garlic or something on there if you're a garlic kind of person, but other than that, you know.
One thing that I know will piss off steak snobs if I say it, but I'm gonna. I love me some A1 on my steak.
Me and Dragon just briefly, like literally very briefly, had a conversation about this recently. And I'm of the mind that just let people enjoy what they're going to enjoy. And I'm of the opinion that sometimes I might like a little A1, you know?
The thing that I can't get my head around, go ahead and do it if you want, but I can't get my head around it, ketchup on steak.
I'm not a huge fan of ketchup in general these days.
Barbecues
Like-
are placed in most of my diet.
Why is this on? Oh, I put my copper on standby at some point. That's unfortunate. I'm gonna have to wait on some wire now. No, but yeah, like I used to use ketchup for fries, ketchup for burgers, ketchup for hot dogs, but now like the only thing I might use ketchup for is gonna be fries. That's one of the few things I do use it for anymore. But like hot dogs, if I'm doing just like a plain dog, I'll do mustard on it at most. Burgers, you know, all manner of toppings I throw onto burgers, so it really varies. But
Here's a question that I've got for you. Can a person say that they don't eat ketchup if they eat barbecue sauce or fry sauce?
I would say yes, even though ketchup is a component in each of those things, because they're not eating ketchup as ketchup. It's, you know, like saying you don't eat ketchup if you do eat those things is in a way kind of disingenuous, but at the same time, it's a more reasonable thing.
I wasn't
think.
trying to gotcha, but I do kind of have a gotcha. Under that same reasoning, couldn't you say I don't eat meat if the only thing you ever have is a hamburger? Because you're not eating beef as beef.
That was actually the argument that came up in my head as I was saying it, but that usually comes with a bit more to the context of the situation. Like if you say I don't eat ketchup, it's probably because you don't like the taste of ketchup. You know, but
I don't
if
eat
you
tomatoes,
say if you say
but
I don't
eat
eat
pasta
meat,
sauce, ketchup
you-
all the time.
yeah, if it's something like you don't eat meat, you've probably got more reason to it than just you don't like the taste of meat. Could absolutely be the case, but in most cases it's not. It's usually a dietary thing for one reason or another. but I've never seen anyone not eat ketchup for a dietary reason. Could absolutely be a thing, I'm sure, but certainly less common at the very least than something like not eating meat.
The next big fad diet, ketchupins. They cannot eat ketchup because it is morally wrong. Because they feel more pain than animals. God, I'm sorry. Should I be mocking vegans on your channel? I'm sorry.
I mean, that could be mocking a whole number of things, honestly, because there are
True.
certain things that are genuinely fad diets, whereas being vegan, I wouldn't call it a fad diet exactly.
Oh god. Have you read some of the stuff on keto forums?
Nope, I don't. I've never looked into any of that stuff at
These
all, ever.
people actually believe that by avoiding sugar, their brain elevates to a higher state.
Well, I don't know any of the anything having to do with any of that, so I'm not going to weigh in on it.
Yeah. I know, it's just I will say that personally, I don't think that it's terribly unhealthy to do at least burst keto diets. You shouldn't do it steady. That was the big thing that all the Atkins proponents were saying was do not do this hardcore. So you should do it in bursts. Same thing applies to keto because keto is just Atkins a little more extreme. But I think that some people take their fad diet and go a little nuts with it.
That could absolutely be the case. I don't know. I eat what I want to eat because I like the way that the food tastes. I've never concerned myself with diets or what the purposes of them are. Maybe in the future I will because I don't know. Maybe eating just whatever I want isn't going to hold up so well in the future. But yeah, fortunately, never been something I had to concern myself with.
Generally, the way that I eat is I just fulfill cravings.
Mm-hmm.
Because fundamentally, if you learn how to track your cravings, not your wants, but your cravings, a lot of people can't tell the difference between the two. But if you learn how to track and tell what you're currently craving, your body is actually giving you signs of certain nutrients it needs, that it knows that that's one of the key sources for that nutrient. And I fundamentally learned that because as a hypoglycemic person, you got to learn how to know when you need sugar.
Mm-hmm. I have to make a bunch of cables, and because I had my copper turned off for a while, I don't have enough.
Oh.
Cables are another thing that I could absolutely have being automated at this point, but I'm already having power issues, so I'm trying to keep the machines to a minimum as much as I can right now. I could build more biofuel generators, and I could double my output, if not more, but it's a lot more than I want to invest in upkeep right now, because I would have to fuel twice as many generators. But I do have space in my little power station area here for 3 more.
Have I sounded really distant for a while?
Not super distant, no.
Did my voice quality just change or no?
Without like a direct comparison, it's hard to say. There was enough break that I have no idea.
Do you hear me right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my headset apparently, and this is the microphone that I meant to be on.
It sounds a bit different, yeah.
Apparently,
Not a
this
huge
whole time
difference.
I've been on my headset. Which that's an impressive microphone then, because that's hanging on the wall.
Yeah. So I've been kind of bumbling around for like the last half hour, I feel like, in the game, but we are making some progress. Some stuff I don't want to just stand in front of the machine, just handcrafting stuff, but just wandering around in circles while the machines build stuff isn't doing much better anyway.
Why don't you go around tree massacring to get revenge for them causing you trouble at the beginning of the stream?
I mean, I absolutely could. I was doing that a little bit ago with my chainsaw, just getting biofuel. Um, Actually, here's what I think I'm gonna do. I'm going to look at the cost for some of these biofuel generators, biomass burners. See how much I need to make 3 of them. Almost have enough, actually, just off of that. Because I have the perfect space for 3 more biomass burners. I just want to make sure I have enough biofuel to reasonably keep them up kept. So I think going around and cutting down a bunch of trees actually is probably the best way to go about it. And in doing that, I can also kind of scout the area around here as well a little bit. And the only thing that is going to hold me back in the slightest is going to be inventory capacity, which I have a fair amount of space, so this shouldn't be too much of an issue at all. I've got 14 biofuel for my chainsaw, which should keep me going. I don't want any of you. Get out of here. Leave me alone.
Was that a bomb bug?
It's this glowing little bug thing that was near the iron node there, yeah. Which I could absolutely turn around and beat it to death with my little taser here. Problem solved.
So did you watch the video that I was referencing earlier where the guy was explaining why they won't be doing certain features and stuff?
Yeah, I'm subscribed to their YouTube because I'm very much a fan of the game. So I've been keeping up with the updates and stuff pretty recently.
It sounded like his fundamental reasoning, not necessarily his, their fundamental reasoning on not wanting the tower defense was that it wasn't an opt-in thing. You know, you were forced to do it. Couldn't they just address that by having something out in the world where when you trigger it, that causes the tower defense element?
Possibly, but I think just in general, it's not something that they want to invest the time and resources into adding to the game when it's not something that interests them as a core gameplay loop.
Yeah.
And when you see games like, and I'm not talking bad about it by any means, because I think what it exists of the game so far is good, but Star Citizen is an example of adding features frequently based on what players want and stuff, and then not finishing things in any kind of timely manner.
Yeah, you gotta avoid mission and feature creep.
Yeah. Which could certainly be part of the reasoning for not wanting to invest in adding any kind of features like that to this game.
Yeah, I just meant like if the one holdback is the lack of opt-in, that would address it, wouldn't it?
I suppose. I think a more acceptable way to do it would be having a setting for it.
Oh, yeah.
Because if it's something in the
feel
world, it's something you can stumble into, and that might not be ideal for some people.
The way I think I would address it is that I'd have something out in the world, and then, like, as you're coming, there's a bunch of very blatant warnings. Hey, you're about to trigger the tower defense mechanic. Hey, you're about to trigger the tower defense mechanic.
Well,
That way
in
you
regards
still
to...
have that, you can do all the preparation, then go find it.
In regards to
Just a
that,
setting.
like for me as an example, I would see that as a part of the game that is out there, and even if it's not a gameplay loop that I would want to take part in, having it constantly sitting out there feels like something that's left incomplete.
So you would almost feel like you have to then.
Yeah, whereas if it's a setting in the menu,
Okay,
basically.
what if it's a setting and the node? So you turn it on, then it spawns the node, and then you have to go out and find the node. That way, like, you're given a chance to build up your defenses before you initiate it.
That could absolutely be a thing as well. But I think at the very least, having a setting in the menu, kind of like Minecraft, where you can just make the game peaceful mode if you want.
Yeah, fair.
I would like it, honestly, in Minecraft if I had an option for pillagers, because there's not really anything that they give that I can think of off the
Easy
top of my
access to
head.
arrows and crossbows.
Yeah, but there's nothing that is limited specifically to them, whereas, like, to get string, you have to have spiders around. And I mean, there are other ways you can get string, because there are some pre-gens that come with, like, spider webs and stuff, but the, you know,
You also can get
gunpowder is
some
a
of the
good example.
trash from fishing nowadays, right?
That could be as well, yeah. But yeah, like, gunpowder was always a good example to me, because, like, you have to deal with creepers to get gunpowder and stuff like that, but
I wish there was an alternate source for it, because they're just a pain to grind.
yeah. All right, so I've built up a lot of leaves and wood. Couple thousand leaves, few hundred wood. I am high above everything. Let me see if I can get a relatively safe drop point over here.
So I'm guessing that the company didn't give you Shell's boots?
No, they did not. There is some equipment you can put on later on. I don't know if the blade runners help you with fall damage, but they are a thing that you put on your legs that kind of look like that. And it's also called blade runners, which is interesting. Now, because I got these animal hides, I can research alien carapace here. Which now, if I get 10 more, then I can turn those into biomass. I also found quartz, so I can research that, which is going to start me down a very useful path of quartz-based constructions. But I don't have enough for any of those yet, but now I can scan for quartz, which is useful. I'm going to go ahead and just dump my excess limestone in here, because I don't want to have to deal with processing it. So when I have that machine turned on, it'll just destroy. It's basically my trash machine, but it also gives me coupons that I can use to buy new things in the awesome shop here. So I can buy new recipes for buildings and stuff like that.
What does your quarry look like?
My quarry?
Yeah.
It's literally another node just like the iron here. So all of the, like, mineral-based resources just have a little kind of platform like this.
So how do you tell if the vein is empty or not?
The veins are infinite.
Oh, okay.
And that is an intended part of the game, I guess. Like, they don't have any
So-
plan of changing that.
If you found a quartz vein, you could set up a quarry there and just pump up quartz as much as you need.
Yep. Yeah, because the game isn't intended to be a struggle for resources as much as it is optimizing what resources you get. So they wanted the resource nodes to be infinite for that reason, I believe. Now, biomass is one of the only things I actually craft by hand just because it's so quick compared to most other things. But the solid biofuel, I have a machine for. This game actually, by the way, has multiplayer in it, and I don't know anyone who plays it. I don't know anyone who streams that plays it, I should say. Because I don't think Dragon, who I regularly collab with on Thursdays for Hunt Showdown, I don't think he's super interested in this type of game. At the very least, I haven't been able to convince him to get it yet. But
I'd be interested, but at that cost, I'm getting Beat Saber first.
Yeah, because It's definitely a game that I am very into, but I don't think most people are into this kind of game as much as I am. There's definitely a huge community of people who go nuts for this game, but at least in my circles, I haven't come across many people who have gotten sucked into this game nearly as much as I have. So I don't think I'm gonna have to be worried about biofuel for a while.
Yeah, I think. One thing that I definitely want to do again with you sometime is do a run of PX,
PX.
Planet Explorers. Isn't that what it's called?
Oh yeah, that
Terraria Space, that one.
Starbound.
Starbound. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Planet
which one's
Explorers is
Planet?
another one that we played. It was one that I found that let you make your own like items and vehicles and stuff.
Hmm.
Like you could kind of loosely design them in like a I don't think it was in the game itself, but it was something you could access that you got with the game, like the map editor for Warcraft and stuff like that, where you could kind of design your own weapons and stuff like that, and then you could build them in the game and actually have them. So
I
right
think
now,
the one thing that does bug me about all of these 3D Minecrafts, so just what I'm gonna call them, it's not accurate. It's just gets the point
right.
across. But all these 3D Minecrafts is the lack of character customization.
Yeah, I am a sucker for character customization. I don't think that's any secret to anyone who knows me. But it really is a shame that there isn't anything for that in a lot of these games.
I mean, heck, even if I had to pump in my own VRM to up and go, I'd be fine with that. I've learned how to do that crap.
Yeah, it'd be cool if more games had that as an option. Honestly, being able to have
But
fully.
you know, you'd have everyone afraid of the spore effect.
Yeah, honestly, I just feel like just that's not something you have to engage with. Just deal with it.
So just say player skins might be inappropriate. Use discretion. And be
that,
done with it.
or just have an option where you can play without engaging in other people's player skins. I thought.
Well, that's what I
that
mean.
This would
Like when you go to turn on player skins, a pop-up would pop up that says player skins may be inappropriate. Use your own discretion.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's as much liability as the company really should ever have to deal with. So I don't know why everyone acts like it's the end of the world if their game has penises in it.
Yeah, I don't know. I need more cables. Now, right now, my power station is a mess. Fully on the intent that it's not intended to be long term anyway, because even these biomass burners are going to get replaced eventually. Because this game is not about being green, even remotely.
Technically speaking, it should be because of something you were saying before.
What's that?
You were saying that it's about having the most optimized way of just harvesting the planet, right?
Yeah.
Well, waste.
You've got a lot of noise.
Yeah, I have someone banging on my desk.
I only bring it up because I couldn't even hear what you were saying at a certain point there.
But okay, so waste is waste.
Yeah.
Proper capitalism wants to be green because you don't want to waste anything. You want to make money off of every little thing that you make.
I mean, when I switch to like coal though, I'm not wasting anything.
Your coal emissions?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does. You could be collecting those and selling them for something. or using them to make something.
Selling them or making them out of what? Or into
know.
what, rather?
Well,
Like-
okay. Here's the thing: if you have literally burnt it down to its minimum state, it's carbon. Build carbon nanotubes.
That's some space station talk right there. We're planet side, all right.
Okay, harvest it and send it to the space station. Then, I mean, come on. It's just good capitalism, my guy.
Well, here's the thing: they probably got like atmosphere skimmers or something. You know,
Probably.
that's space people talk. We're planet side. We yeehaw down here.
So then you're perfectly green. If your emissions float up and then they skim them, then you're green.
But we're not using green power sources and stuff like that. We don't care if the atmosphere degrades because we'll just give our guys on the ground better helmets. But yeah, they specifically are avoiding adding in like solar and wind power and stuff like that because it goes against the thematics of the game. The theme being you're working for a horrendous mega corporation that basically owns your life and everything on this planet and probably everything for many parsecs. I don't remember if I used that word properly.
It does seem strange, though, that mega corporation that wants to squeeze you for everything you've got wouldn't want solar panels, because then you wouldn't have to burn as much coal, and you could send more coal up to them.
Yeah, you'd think they would want coal, honestly, or rather, they would want carbon, for things like carbon nanotubes, incredibly useful. But instead we just burn it. We burn it until we get oil, and then we burn that.
Yeah, and what I was saying before, I actually hadn't finished it. If you've burned it to its lowest component, then all the emissions will be literally pure coal or carbon, as you said. If you aren't perfectly burning it, then your emissions could be captured and reburnt.
Yeah. Being that the coal generator never has like an output, I can only assume. Actually, how does the coal work? The coal is actually, let's see, what's it do? It burns coal, boils water. Yeah. Anyway, there is no output for any like residuals from the coal, so I can only assume it auto recycles it until there is literally nothing. Which, I mean, shoot, that's
pretty green.
That's a pretty good machine right there.
Yeah, it's also pretty damn green.
Yeah. It does output a lot of
Here's one thing I wanna
smoke,
know.
but beyond that.
Is this deserty look what the whole planet looks like?
No, there's several different biomes. I chose to start in a zone that it's pretty deserty. You get a few options of where you start, actually.
Because if this was the whole planet, I'd kind of question how exactly there would be coal, because coal is the result of coniferous die-off. Basically, planned mass extinction.
Yeah.
The heck is that thing?
That's a power slug, which I can throw that into the MAM to learn how to process them into power cells that I can use to overclock my machines.
That sounds like green power there.
It's what it is finding a way to get up to 200% out of a machine, and I don't even know how that's even possible. Yeah, there are 3 different types of power slugs, different colors. The blue ones are the lowest tier. You can use one of them to craft a single power cell. I forget what it's called. It's something like power cell, though. With the yellow ones, you can process it to make either 2 or 3, I don't remember which. And then with purple, which is what this last node is going to be, you can make 5 out of 1 slug. I don't fully know why the slugs are what generates power, but that is the situation.
Shouldn't you be like setting up a corral where you breed them so that you can like you get more out of each slug rather than like killing everyone that you find?
That seems like that would be the more efficient usage of them. I don't even know how they work, so I don't question it. That's for the space station people to figure out, and then just upload that
Aren't you the
that
one doing the
knowledge into
research?
my. Nah, the machine does it. And who made the machine? Space station people. Who invented the machine? I made it. I make things. I don't invent things.
I'm pretty sure that you need a college degree just to do the basic wiring stuff.
I mean, that would probably be the ideal setup, but if the technology they give you when they send you planet side is sufficient enough, maybe it does all the thinking for you, and you just need to be there to be the physical hands to do it.
I'm pretty sure curiosity defeats that idea.
Because, I mean, look at this. I didn't do that.
Can't they just have a curiosity rover do that?
It's probably cheaper to have a person do it. I mean, what's a person cost? Not nothing. All right. So I've got this thing making rotors now. It's going to be incredibly slow because it's just a slow thing to build. But I could also help it out by handcrafting some as well. And once I do that, then I will have completed all of the current milestones. Then I have nothing to focus on but the phase 1, which means I'm going to need a lot of rotors and a lot of reinforced iron plates to make those 50 advanced smart plates, smart plating, whatever it's called, and that's going to take a while. So
Are you gonna try to place a smart plate to see what it looks like?
I mean, I could once I get one. Actually, you know what I could do? I could do very briefly, very quickly. Just bring us over here. Let's get. Whoops. Let's just do it that way because too lazy to do it the proper way. Let's just have this build 1 real quick. So I need 50 of each of these. It's going to be 49 because I'm making one now. But maybe it won't take too long because I already made like 10 rotors in a pretty short time span just handcrafting them. So the problem is that the rotors and the reinforced iron plates use overlapping resources.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the... Let me see if I can slap it down on the ground here real quick. This is... Okay, yeah, so it looks like it is all in line with that. So I suppose that is all one unit. Which, using the models to determine if, you know, what the situation is isn't always accurate because you get things like the screws where you can put down one screw and it's a bucket full of screws. But, you know. Also, the fact that these buckets have to be made out of metal, which means I'm using some of the metal to make the bucket that the screws are contained in.
Are you sure that those aren't made of like bioplastic derived from the coal?
It's not. There's no. None of that stuff is being in this loop here. It's all iron. There's not even steel here yet. It's just all iron.
Maybe every machine is equipped with a teleporter to receive bioplastic, though.
I think teleporters are going to be a very late game technology because they have something that suggests you're going to be able to do that.
You know, maybe that's a more generalized type of teleporting. This is like a really specific that can only transport one type of atom.
I don't know. It seems awful convenient. Let's see here. Can I make... Yeah, I can make more.
Or maybe it's like that plastic out of the air stuff that the person was talking about on the news a few years back. The idea was to like collect CO2 from the air, you know, and they condense it into plastic.
Can't say I'm terribly familiar with the situation, but maybe. Though that said, if they could produce plastic enough to make that much plastic for the screws, why do I have to figure out how to get plastic later on?
I don't know.
I have to collect a whole bunch of oil and everything. It's a whole thing. So the biggest cost in these really is, it feels like the screws. The screws are... I guess the one rod makes 4 screws, so really it's the rods that are the more expensive part of the equation. Since I need like 5 of each or whatever. Or no, it was 5 and 20. So it's about equal. Pretty close. I don't know. It's math.
Oh, here we go. If you use the bucket in construction, you don't get the bucket back to throw into your trash. So maybe it is made of metal, but it's needed for every construction piece.
That could be.
You know, they've like planned the construction around having that bucket.
It's interesting that I thought to question that with the screws, but I didn't think to question the bags on the concrete or the spools on the wire. Or whatever is coating the wires in the cable.
Are you sure they're coated? Are you sure they're not just live?
Oh, what turns it from just a plain copper wire to something black?
Oxidization?
That's not how oxidation works with copper, I don't think.
It turns green, and if it's dark enough of a green, it can actually look black. I've had a couple pennies that were black. That's all that I know.
Oh. I always figure with pennies, it's more than just oxidation, though. There's a lot of grime
When
that
I
goes
looked
into
up
pennies.
why is my penny black, the thing that I was reading said that they can turn black from oxidization. It might not have been the case for me. It very well could not be the case for all pennies, but apparently it can be a case.
I have completed as much of the rotors as I can do by hand, which is the bulk of them. And there's the rest I need. Hit the big red button.
Didn't even wait for it fully to eject.
Tradition, watch the pod.
Factory traversal can now be accessed in the build menu. Caution is recommended during
Someday your descendants will do this as a holy ritual. But they have to ship you a wife first.
considering how many crash sites are on this planet, it's a wonder I even made it here in one piece, so it might be a while before that could even happen.
Well, could they just drop her on the space elevator?
Maybe? I don't know. So I'm still going to need rotors. So I think I'll have this keep building rotors. I am going to also need...
I do have to
this
challenge
stuff.
this game's concept in one way, though.
How's that?
This does not seem like a greedy mega corporation.
Why do you say that?
Because every greedy mega corporation has to have nosy middle managers that need to micromanage everything.
In a lot of the ones I've seen that are set up like this, it's usually you're just kind of on your own in some horrible place where you have no interaction with anyone else because it's such a hazardous place to live or whatever the case might be. And
at least on Earth, I'll say. Okay, at least
Yeah.
on Earth. Every one of these remote outposts where you're doing hazardous stuff that no one can be there, you're still getting calls every 5 minutes from a nosy middle manager.
well, you know what? They do have Ada in this, the thing that keeps telling me what the deal is with my new stuff. So they're probably just watching me remotely and then just having the machine feed me whatever information they need.
Yeah, but does Ada be like, hey, you've been standing around for 30 seconds. You need to go get us some coal.
I feel like they're at a point where it doesn't matter if someone stands around because they're probably still making their money off of that investment anyway.
Isn't that the case at like Get and Go?
Well, they've had presumably centuries to figure out that a lot of companies, at least in America and such, a lot of companies are just bad and inefficient. Having worked for some of these bad and inefficient companies, I can speak on that pretty confidently. Let's see. I have iron. Let's see. One node can probably get me enough to do 2 core components, which means I could make rods and plates. If I turn the rods just into screws, then I would have enough to do the reinforcement plates. So I need smelter. Let's see. Rods need a constructor. Screws need a constructor. Plates need a constructor. Reinforced plates need an assembler. Okay.
It is nap time though, Quinn. Nap.
This is a top tier landing system that they've designed.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Fully automated, touches down perfectly gently.
Doesn't that just mean it's a dragon?
What?
Doesn't the dragon rocket land in the same spot it took off from?
The Dragon rocket.
Isn't that what it's called?
Are you talking about SpaceX?
Yeah.
I mean, based on the landings that they've done, it took them a while to get the landing to work. Granted, you know,
This is centuries later.
this is centuries later, and they were doing something that hadn't really been done, at least on that scale. I'm sure people have landed things similar on much smaller scale, but not doing a full atmosphere to Earth, landing on 4 little legs. But that's also, never looked quite as smooth as this thing. Like, you don't even hear this thing touch down. So I need to make a portable miner, which I need rods for, and then I need rods just in general. I need cables, and I need rotors. So I'm going to grab 4 of these rotors. I'm going to stock up on... I could just make cables, but might as well just take the whole haul.
I don't want her nap being too late, so I'm gonna try laying Quinn down, and then I'm gonna go up for smoke to give her time to settle down, and I'll be right back. Okay.
All right. All right. So we've got all of our rods and everything that we're going to need. So let's go ahead and make these cables, make the portable miner, and we can go start harvesting some more iron to kind of expand our situation here. Do you want to check our biofuel here? Let's top off all our generators because we've got the fuel for it. We might end up needing to make another fuel generator, but we're good for now. And this thing is still pumping out fuel. It's still got plenty. Like, we're not going to run out of biofuel anytime soon. We are golden in that regard. But we could, we definitely need more iron, so that is the goal at hand. Whether we will currently have enough power or not for it, it remains to be seen. But we will deal with that situation when we get there. Right now, let's go ahead and grab all our plates as well. And see if we... I don't remember if I grabbed all the concrete just now or not, but we might need more of that as well. Because when we get up to that iron, not only are we going to build all the buildings there, we're also going to build a platform on it as well, which that's something that we need to do with a bunch of these later on, but we're not... We need those resources right now, and tearing down the machines to build up those resources feels a little... feels like a lot of work right now that I don't want to deal with. So for the time being, we are not really dealing with that. We're just kind of leaving that be and only building the platforms on the new constructions. So this one I need to be a bit taller, and we're going to go up to the rock here. Use that as the basis for our first one. Build out 3. Build out 3. And build out 3. Now 3 by 3 is usually good for a very simple little mini factory. We have a bit more that we have to work with, so let's build out 2 extra here. That should give us the room we need. We're going to need a miner first and foremost, so we're gonna... Let's see. We're going to build it... Actually, maybe do it this way. Yeah, we'll do it this way. And we'll do our smelter for our iron right next to it. Again, we deal with the weird angles because we just kind of have to in this layout. Because we do have this rock here, we can't really... You know what? We're actually going to have to do a different angle on the smelter, actually. The miner, rather. So we're going to do the miner pointing to the back here. Do the smelter on this side still. Yeah. Wire up the conveyor belts. Now, this left side might not get used much, but I do like having just kind of an open platform on any of my little factories or mini factories or whatever you might consider them to be anyway. I have this one in line. It's going to be right on the edge there, but we can bring it a bit further back. Let's... No, we can't, actually. This is because it's going to be running into that machine. That's as far back as we can do it. We can do a straight path there. Have this smelting iron. Having this, let's see. The iron is going to have to go to 2 places. So this is actually not going to be able to go there. Which means I might be able to put this a little closer. Still going to need 2 constructors. But we're going to need a conveyor splitter. Which we'll probably have to have go right about there. Have one of our constructors go this way, and we want that in line with the splitter. And have that connected there. And then, okay, so we're probably going to need to build a bit more platform. Remains to be seen. If I can actually build my assembler in line with this, and then just bring that around, you know, build more platform out this way. I don't like the fact that it would be hitting trees, but maybe there's some other way we can do this. We are packing it in pretty tight here, so we might not have much of an option. Okay, I think because I built this splitter, I completely forgot the fact that I'm going to need more cable. But, you know what else I'm going to need? I think I'm going to build this out a little bit further, because if I have my 2 constructors side by side, then have my assembler in front of them over here. Let's have it in line with one of them, at least. And then far enough out that the other one can maneuver its belt into it properly. And then we'll just feed from that into a storage container up here, which is another thing that I didn't account for in my resources. So we're going to need more cables, and we're going to need more iron rods. But we've got the bulk of it now. And similar to our secondary concrete, we'll just run another conveyor belt from there down here into another storage container. So actually, let's make this 2. Gonna need 110 iron rods, which is gonna be hard to come by right now because we are using our iron rods at pretty full capacity. So let's turn this off. We don't immediately need the rotors. And the nice thing is we're halfway to the rotors already. So that's good production that we've got there. Our screws are loaded at capacity, pretty much. Like this thing, it could take more, but it's slowly building up a stockpile, so that's good. It's going to take us a minute before we can get those iron rods. So let's see. I wonder if there is a stockpile of pure iron, plain iron, that we can get to make some of those manually to kind of fill out the difference. Let's see here. We absolutely can grab some iron, iron bars, some ingots, and go to the handcrafting station here, and we can make a bunch of iron rods. We need 110 of them, so we might as well build a whole stack of 100, and that will get us the bulk of what we need. And yeah, I think we are nearing the end of things here. But for the moment, we're going to continue a little bit on. I think we're going to round out the keep want to talk in D&D terms. That's not what I'm going for. But we're going to round out the stream here once I get this little mini factory all up and running and have it set to run all of its resources down here and when it's all wired up. So to that end, I'm going to build some more cable because I'll need that as well. Because I'm going to need to run wires down here. Power lines, rather. We have a ton of copper, so that is no issue to make a small stockpile of those cables. All right. We definitely ended up going past that 2-hour mark, just kind of blew past it without even thinking because, again, I get absolutely sucked into this game, and I could play it for hours and hours and hours on end. And I would. I absolutely would. Like, you see people do, like, 6-hour, 8-hour, 12-hour streams, you know, like it's nothing. And this is the game that I could do that on. I don't need 11 storage containers. I only need 2. Jesus. All right, let's get this second constructor in here.
I got a question.
What's up?
Would it be a dumb idea as a convenience upgrade to my setup to get a mini fridge so I don't have to like leave stream to grab a new Coke?
I don't know. Let's see. Shoot. I missed a step. That iron is... Okay. I forgot something. Let's see if I can do this without having to move that machine. So if I don't have to move this assembler, that is ideal. This iron is going to need to go to a constructor, which we could have over here. And this constructor is going to need to feed into the other constructor, which I could do like so. Because this is going to need to make rods, and this is going to need to make screws, this is going to need to make plates, and this assembler is going to have to make reinforced iron plates, which uses plates and screws. Then I just need to lead this conveyor belt. I want to make sure I'm doing it neatly. This conveyor belt is going to just have to loop around to the back of the machine here. Let's see if we can get that a bit closer. Actually, how does that look? That's a good angle. All right, and then this will get the iron properly. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 machines here, so I'm going to need a few power poles. There's one. Just one connection. 2 connection. 3 connection. Do another power pole over here. 1 connection. 2 connection. 3 connection. And then this will go down this way. Again, not the neatest, not the most efficient power lines necessarily, just good enough. Because I could absolutely like maximize or optimize the distance between them to where I'm wasting as few resources as possible. But I just need it to work. with the resources I have in my bag. So now this is going to be ready to go. This, yeah. So this is going to be pulling even more power, which I'm going to have to deal with and figure out next time, because I'm not going to have the time to do it now. But for now, what I can do is I can set up my storage for this, and then it's going to be about it.
I just found a 6-pack fridge that would totally fit in with your setup.
Oh, yeah?
I sent it to you on it's the last Discord link.
I'll have to take a look at that in a minute here. We are going to be about ready to wrap up here in just a minute. I'm just finishing up this last little bit here before we do. And another storage container, which we're going to just do next to this guy. And there we go. Now we're going to have advanced or reinforced iron plates coming down here. But once those machines all kick in, there's probably not going to be enough power to go around. So next time we're going to have to focus on adjusting our power station a little bit. I set it up a little bit wrong where my hub is kind of in the way here. I'm going to have to push that back the other direction so I can actually have full access to these panels to put in 2 more biofuel burners. Right now, my regular consumption is about half of what I can take at any given point. So hopefully with those machines on, actively working, it won't push this beyond that capacity, but it very well might. So we're going to want to be careful there. Actually, it looks like... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, can you automate the feeding of biofuel to these burners?
No, with biofuel, you have to feed them by hand, which is why it feels so much better once you get to the next stage in power production.
What's the next stage?
The next stage, I believe, is coal, which uses coal resource nodes that you mine. It uses water, which you pump out of a sufficient body of water. It's all fully automated, so it's a lot more convenient.
And I'm guessing that you could get the water out of the Atlantic there.
Yeah, that is absolutely a plan. Like, when I get to that point, I'm probably going to relocate my power station over to this side, because then I can pump the water straight up into it. Coal, who knows where I'm going to find it, but you know, I can always just wire that as I need to get it over here. Ideally, in the future, I'll have vehicles where I can use them to deliver my coal, and then I can have shorter conveyor belts actually feeding it and everything. But yeah, we've gotten to a point now where we have the next step in progression is going to be getting those 50 advanced plates. We already have 22 of these rotors, so we're halfway there on the rotors already. And I've had this machine not working because I needed the iron rods to build all those machines over there. But yeah, so next time we're going to finish out phase 1. Next time being whenever I play this again. Who knows? It's the game I drop into when I feel like it, or in the case of today, as like a sort of a backup, because it works well for that. Hit the wrong button. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the stream here. Anyone who has popped into this stream, anyone who's checking out the VOD after the fact, appreciate you guys coming by, and look forward to putting on more of this in the future. Using Twitch has been an interesting experience. We'll see if I stick with it. Got people I want to talk to and get other opinions and stuff like that about it, but it's worked out well so far, so we'll see if it's something I stick with. I might do a run of my streams where I'm using Twitch for a while just to get a more extended preview of it. We'll see, but In the meantime, that is all for this stream, so we'll catch you guys next time.